Okay, I don't want to delay too much longer. Hopefully Brett will be along and we will get started. Okay, he can catch up on the tape. Okay, I'm going to call this November 20th Social Services Grants to order to meeting to order. Oh, I also have foggy brain. Imagine that. Um, um, we'll come back to the minutes, and so let's review and approve the 2025 SSG cycle item. Actually, I'm going to do something different here. Hold on just a second. Let's skip and go to number 4, vendor contract renewal of 2024. So that way we'll give Brett a little bit more time. Okay. So if we could call the meeting to order. I don't want to approve the minutes yet, but we'll do the vendor contract renewal for 2024. Where are we at on that?
Yes, so this is Carrie Higgins with the City of Topeka Housing Services. So United Way's original contract had, their initial term was from 2020 to 2021 with 4 optional renewals. And the current renewal ends February 28th of 2024. And it can be followed by one last renewal, which would be for a contract period of March 1st, 2024 through February 28th of 2025. And so we wanted to discuss it with the committee to see if you wanted to make a motion to start the process to write up the last renewal contract so that it could be presented before the governing body for approval in December.
Okay, I am pleased with that. Karen, and Brett, will you respond to your reactions on that?
I'm certainly been pleased with the service. If you could do us a quick run through of what that 4-year contract and renewal sequence is.
So we've been through 3 of the renewal options, so this would be the 4th. And then after would be February 28th of 2025, we would have to do a new RFP.
And what were the rates and terms, just nutshell, for those, the original one and then the 3 renewals that we've had?
Brett, do you happen to know that information?
I don't have it in front of me.
I apologize, I don't have it with me, but I will certainly get that
Just wanted
information
to know what
for
we're
you.
signing up for, you
Yes.
know.
We'll prepare it for council. We'll have the documents there when we review it.
Yes. We will have that prepared and ready to go for council, have the documents with that information on it.
I don't have her contract. That's above my pay grade, so sorry about that.
Okay, so we don't know how much money we're talking about or how that varies from what it was before.
Give us just a minute. Rhiannon's looking it up.
Okay.
Okay, while we're doing that, Brett, do you have anything to add? How's your team doing with the contract?
Things have gone well for us. We've certainly learned a lot and made process improvements internally with United Way. It's been a good process with the committee, great process with city staff who's always supportive. So it's certainly been a good experience for us, and we'd be happy to have a renewal from for the next contract year, getting us through the next grant year.
Okay, I just always like to ask how things are going with you guys and making sure that everything's good on your end, and I think that's only fair. Carrie, did we get that information Councilwoman Hiller was asking for?
So I guess, Rhiannon Friedman here, I guess what I would do is briefly share that this is a continuation, so this amount has already been agreed on when the contract was initially negotiated, so this is just the 3rd term of the contract. What we will do, though, is when council, when this goes to city council, to the governing body meeting, what we'll do is we will provide the full contract so that you can see all of the amounts and we can talk through all of that. I just messaged Leah, and I don't have it quite this moment, but I can have it to you probably within the hour.
Okay.
Well, we could.
What I would like to see is we may have to have another meeting, and if we do, I would like to see that information come back to our next meeting. Okay, and I'm not talking governing body meeting. I'm talking about social service grants meeting.
Absolutely, yeah, we have plenty of time to accomplish that.
Okay, thank you, Rihanna. Karen, I'm sorry. Did you have something else?
No, you took care of it. I was willing, if we needed something right away to support continuing to work with United Way, but I wasn't comfortable having anything without numbers. So I think we're good.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to the approval of the July 14th minutes. I'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved. I will second it. It's been moved and approved. All those in favor, say aye. Okay, it's 2-0. Taylor, if you can let me know if Mr. Kell comes on board yet. Excuse me. Okay, let's do the review and approval of the 2025 SSG cycle items. And who will handle that?
I'm happy to lead that. Chair and Councilwoman and staff, thanks for giving us an opportunity here. What we have in front of us today is the 2025 priorities. These are the priorities that were approved for 2024 with the amendment to the general fund amount, which then increased the total from 434,904 to 491,904 with the addition of the $24,047 at the end of our last decision-making process. So what you see in front of you are the same priorities that we have had prior in terms of mission statement, in terms of priority areas, in terms of the maximum grant amounts for Shawnee County Medical Society and Positive Connections staying the same, continue to have no untested programs or a set-aside amount, and the requirement that those programs must be in operation for 2 years prior to their date of application. Otherwise, there are no changes to the priorities from our end for the 2025 grant year.
Okay, are there any questions?
I have a couple of them.
Okay, Councilwoman Hiller?
I'm comfortable with the category staying the same. That seems to have worked for us, and we've sort of established a fit in the marketplace of funding. So not hearing anything else. We did run into an issue about that minimum grant language when we did the process before, so maybe we need to address that. I was thinking that there were some notes that we were addressing it, but I don't see anything here. I also wondered, with the increase in dollars in the total overall, whether that was, we didn't really talk about intent for that at the time that the council voted to add it, and that we recommended it before. So I didn't know if there was any interest in sort of a cost of living raise in the cap, you know, from like, but if we went from, let's say, 25 to 28,000 as a cap, that would be, we're funding 20 agencies, that would use up the entire $57,000, or, you know, wouldn't change the playing field for applications necessarily. But we did have agencies capping out with their scores as well as their funding. And third, which could be related to that, I have felt like I should bring up each year the issue of having 2 agencies with a higher level. If we were wanting to do some balancing, if we wanted to raise the cap, did we want to revisit the grandfathering of 2 agencies that can get a lot more money than the others? So 3 issues, Chair.
Okay, first of all, is the cap 10,000?
No, the cap is 25.
25? Okay,
Right. That's
okay.
the maximum that the applicants can ask for.
Oh, you're right. Okay. I'm thinking of, okay, that's the cap.
Yeah.
And then you said, the 2 agencies that are grandfathered in, what are those?
For a few years, we have allowed the Shawnee Medical Society up to 50, and Positive Connections up to 35.
And Karen, I appreciate your history on this. Why were they grandfathered in at those amounts? Do you remember?
They made a,
They made a
they made a
plea or
good
something?
pitch for it and people agreed to do it.
Okay, okay.
I think the medical society has argued that their doctors are donating their time, so they're not asking them for contributions. And they requested that we provide a lot. It's for medical services for folks who can't afford it. Whether that's better than anybody else's services, you know, is the question. And then Positive Connections is able to leverage money into their grants. Their services have changed over time. Just whether it merits, whether it's more important than the others or merits more money than the others would be the question.
Well, and all these agencies do good work, so I'm just
Exactly.
trying to figure out,
Agreed.
you know, where this thought process came from and try to honor that if I could. Okay, and what was the other? Those were your two concerns?
There were three. The other was that the issue of what we meant by the minimum grant amount and whether it was phrased the same in this sheet as well as the instructions. I couldn't even find it in the instructions, actually. But where we say minimum grant amount, does that mean that you should be asking for that much or that we will not grant less than that? That all ties into whether your application is even accepted if you're not asking for $10,000.
I think that's where I got that $10,000 figure
Yeah.
from. So they
Yeah.
have to at least be asking for 10,000 or their application's null and void. Is that correct?
Well, you can read it that way, yet for the last year anyway, maybe 2 years, I'll let Brett speak for United Way. I think there's been a concern that was not correct, and they have accepted those applications and processed and considered them. Also, sometimes when the math happens, we've made grants that were less than 10,000. The recollection that I have when we set, and I think the note is in here somewhere, that the 10,000 was so that it was worth the agency's time and the city's time to process that application, to do the writing, the processing, and the grant management. So
That was in our minutes from you commenting last
you're right.
that was in the minutes that you made that comment from the last meeting. And I think that's why I put that 10,000 in my head. Brett, can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, I think if we wanted to make an adjustment here, we would say minimum grant request amount. And then what that does is that leaves the award amount. You know, if we end up saying a $10,000 minimum grant award, what will happen is we'll likely leave money on the table every year, because we will have agencies that when we take their score, we multiply it by their request, we subtract that from the total amount. When we get to the end, we're not guaranteed that last agency, or excuse me, that last program is going to be awarded a minimum of 10,000. So if we put minimum grant request amount on here and change that on the funding priority sheet, then I think that'll take care of any confusion that folks might have. And we've been operating for the last few years with the request amount being the sort of spirit of that language. So we'd be more than happy if we wanted to make a change to request amount. I think that would clear it up.
Well, this would be my problem though. If I'm an agency and I only need 5,000, then I'm going to ask for 10,000 because I have to request that or I'm not going to get anything. And so that would be my only concern. So the way that I read the minutes and the way that I remember, if my mind serves me well, which right now it's not doing a good job, but if I come in with the grant amount of 5,000, I think what Karen was saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilwoman, that your agency is saying it's not worthy to have any grants under 5 or 4 or something like that. Is there a threshold in there somewhere?
Well, I was on the committee when they did it, or when they did it, and the
Okay.
issue was, and I share your concern, if somebody would inflate their proposal just in order to hit our threshold, what are we accomplishing? The thought was, there had been a time when there was an idea to encourage new proposals, new projects. We have worked that out of this at this point. We've said that the projects need to have at least 2 years under their belts before they can apply, so that it's tested and we're not startup money. And I just throw that out there because the issue was you had all these little tiny grants to do a little something here and there. And the idea of this grant pool was to provide ongoing core program support for tested programs. And so the idea was this was to be substantial core support, not incidental small items. So wherever we want to go with that, we just need to clarify it for United Way and for the applicants.
I think that's awesome that we say you have to be in it for 2 years. I think that's awesome because I've been around a little bit and I've seen where we've given money and they didn't make it that first year or two. So
Right.
I think that's a good measure to measure that by. But I'm a little concerned with saying you have to apply for 10,000 if you only need 5,000. So Brett, how would we be if we brought that threshold down to 5,000?
I think if you brought the threshold down to 5,000, there is a chance, and this is just, I don't have any hard data to back this up,
No, that's okay.
but you may capture 1 or 2 very small nonprofits who would only want 5,000. We rarely run into a program that wants less than 10, or needs less than 10, or requests less than 10. But I wouldn't want to say that they're not out there. And so if we did drop it to 5,000, then there would certainly be the possibility that we would have some smaller nonprofits that would
apply.
That said, you're always, as a nonprofit, you're always rolling the dice that way, because if you ask for 5,000 and you need 5,000, what you're assuming is that your score is going to be 100%. And we have
And that's not always the case.
right.
That's, okay.
And so they tend to ask for more than what they need, because they do that based on whatever the process is. Ours is a percent allocation based on score, and other grantors do it differently. So you may capture a couple of small ones if you dropped it to 5,000. But then that said, if you had a program that was asking for 5,000 and needed 5,000 and got an 80%, then they would be getting significantly less than that. Whereas if they ask for 7,000 or 8,000 or the 10,000, as it were, then they would be able to cover those costs and more.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you think 10,000 is still a good threshold?
I think it's a good threshold based on the current nonprofit community that we're both supporting, and it's also supporting the citizens of Topeka. I think 10,000 is a good minimum request amount.
Okay. Karen, are you satisfied with that answer?
I am. If what I heard from Brett his recommendation to clarify that here would be to simply add one word to this sheet, and it would say minimum grant amount request $10,000, maximum grant amount $25,000.
You would still want request, because you wouldn't want them asking for more than 25,000. So we would put request on both, meaning that
Okay,
that when someone's asking, for those dollars, they have to ask for no fewer than 10, they ask for no more than 25.
gotcha.
And then that bookends it, and that should take care of any lack of clarity.
Thank you for that feedback. I think that part of where that 10,000 came from was this is a fairly robust application that's expecting that an entity is fairly substantial. I mean, with your board and your outcomes tracking and setting and all those sorts of things that, okay. So we would add we'd add request to both. Is that what you're,
Correct, so
Minimum grant.
minimum grant request amount, maximum grant request amount.
yeah, maybe we could even get rid of amount.
Yeah, just minimum
Save the
grant
line.
request and maximum grant request.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, I think
okay.
that's reasonable.
Okay, sounds good to me. Is there any more discussion?
Not on
Any
that
more
one.
I know, any more discussion on priorities? Any more discussion? Let's move on to the scoring sheet.
Well,
Well,
I had raised the two other issues, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, you did. Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, with the additional 57,000, the issue, it's there, it's agreed. But do we want to change that maximum request amount? And I'm not pushing it, it's just an opportunity to consider it. It would allow a little bit more to the regular agencies that have applied. So something to consider. Correspondingly, do we want to look at the exemptions for the two agencies that are being allowed to apply for more?
Well, we're gonna receive more money anyway, right? For 2024. I thought Freddie found us some money.
That, we're gonna have that in 2024, and we are discussing 2025 today. So I think the
Okay,
way
well,
that
that-
works is we're carrying it forward, right?
Right, yeah,
Oh,
and that
good
was
point.
57, that was 57.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for 2024.
Well, this is kind of, I had a little trouble with that, but I think what this is that the vote was to take $57,000, earmark it in the 2024 budget to carry forward into these 2025 allocations.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's right, for 2025. I don't, we have one more year on this. I really don't want to change that grandfather until we give them a full year that might happen. That's just me. How, was there, when it was grandfathered in, was there a timetable? Like it's going to expire at a certain time? Do we know
No.
that?
No, there was not.
Because I'm really concerned with all the medical, and I know what Positive Connections do. I just want to make sure that if we're going to do it, that we give them ample time to make that adjustment to their to their budget.
Well, this is the time to do it if we're going to do it. It's the rhythm that we have with this committee, and this would be for 2025 money, so they would know in
I guess that would be a
January
year.
of 24 that there wouldn't be that extra money a full year out. Then their actual allocation, just like everybody else's, would be made by summer.
And so you're bringing it up just because this is the proper time to bring it up. There's not a reason. Are you saying you want to cut it out, or you want to make it they'd have to do the process just like everybody else? I mean, where are you going with this, Karen?
Personally, I have, I felt that was not comfortable making an exception just for two agencies. Haven't been. The needs, every one of the agencies is meeting important needs in the community and doing the best they can to raise money for them. And we have growing needs as we've been experiencing this year especially. So everybody's stretching, and it's just a matter of if we want to provide even support to everybody or even opportunity, or whether we want to have a set aside. It's just,
How long have they been grandfathered in? Do you know how many years? And if that's something, we can
it's
come
when
back
we
to.
shifted. It was at one point when we shifted, and I don't remember whether we set the cap then at 25, maybe probably 6 or 7 years ago now, just to make sure that more money was available across the board to everyone. We could research it, I don't recall for sure. And then the pitches were made at that time to exempt those two, and that's not changed. The total amount, the cap hasn't changed for all of the applicants, nor has the set aside changed.
Can we table this until our next meeting?
Sure.
Let's do that, and that way those are some questions I would like staff to go back and look how long they've been getting it before we make this decision. Before I'm willing to make this decision.
And maybe to your question to me, which I couldn't answer very well, what the layout was of whether there was a cap at all and how much the grants were at the time, what it looked like, and when the change happened.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I would like to know the history of that just before I make just a drastic change. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay. We'll come back to that then. Thank you for bringing that. And your third issue was, or not issue, but your third concern was the
The second and third were sort of related. Did we want to raise the cap from 25 to 27 or 28, let's say, given that number also has been fixed for a number of years? So maybe that too would
bring
be
that
on the
back
table
to
when we consider, because if there's 57,000 extra, between the two of them, there is 35,000 that isn't available to the other agencies. That they've been given as an option for extra. Looks like Medical Society hasn't been getting more than 45 just based on scores. They didn't last year anyway. Positive Connections has come pretty close to that 35 based on their scoring.
okay.
So we can just kind of see how it's running the numbers. We've put extra money in the pot just to make sure we know what we want to do with it.
Okay, that sounds good. Brett, I do have another question since I had this discussion with Karen. Is 25 a good number on the top end? Is that a good number?
Thanks for the question. So, it's a hard one to answer, because while I have the mission statement in front of me from the Social Services Committee, that's been used for a number of years to help guide the work. I wasn't in the initial conversations to understand fully what the intent was behind the social services grants. That said, when you have under $500,000 available, and you've got the number of social service agencies that you have in the city of Topeka, somewhere around 25,000 seems to be a fairly good cap.
Okay,
Unless you're wanting to prioritize your areas here based on a percentage, which has never happened. So I think, you know, you've now got just a little under $500,000. 25,000 allows for, as Councilwoman mentioned earlier, a good amount of core funding for capacity for organizations, while at the same time not concentrating it in 2 or 3 agencies. Or 2 or 3 priority areas for that matter.
I was just wondering, like, if you're seeing all these applications come in at 35, 40, 50. I mean, you know, I just didn't know where, but if we're telling them they could only go there, I mean, we're going to see that. So we kind of control that. So I can understand that there's never going to be enough money, but I just didn't know. Now that I think about it, we're setting that cap, so we're not going to always see that. But thanks. That's a good something to study for me. Thank you for that answer.
If I may, the other side to that is the challenge that private businesses as well as nonprofits are having right now to hire good people. Right. And so with salaries and people arguing for at least a livable wage for everyone, we know that nonprofits often struggle anyway because they don't pay as much as other sectors do. And so with inflation, I mean, again, I know this is just putting it out. $3,000 would be $2,000 or $3,000 would be about a 10% increase over 10 years. and so to be able to just help even continue that core offering to help meet the increased costs of running that business is kind of where my thought was coming from. Again, just wanted to put it on the table because certainly it's a challenge to those nonprofits to keep the doors open and keep those services going.
And I appreciate that discussion, Councilwoman, because it's something that we have to do, and I think this is probably a good time to do it. Yeah. Okay. Is there any other discussion on A, priorities?
Chair, I would just add to that and say that based on conversations we have with our nonprofit partners, we're all competing for a very small pool of social workers, for example.
Right.
And we have our school districts that have a unique set of
Social workers.
yeah, and also a unique set of compensation resources at their disposal that say a small, you know, mom and pop nonprofit don't have. The same with Stormont Vale Health, or the same with KU St. Francis. And so I do think the point you bring up there is significant and something for us to consider. That's a conversation, at least on our Tuesday meetings, we have quite a bit about all of us competing for the same pool of talent and wanting to ensure that we can keep our compensation rates competitive in order to not just retain, but sort of maintain those folks. So.
And you know what? You are so right, because our DCF social workers went to work for the schools. And guess what? Our DCF social workers went to work for the hospitals, because doctors have put social workers in their office. So when that patient comes in, they can fulfill that need of that patient, whether it's shoes, medicine, no matter where. And so, yeah, we've got social workers in almost every hand that you look at. But we also have them coming back to those social service agencies to rely on getting some of those resources to help that person, you know. And I say that because I remember during COVID, so some of my buddies, they went to the hospital, and I had a lady that called me, one of my social workers, good friend of mine, and she said, Sylvia, where do I get food at? It's a Wednesday. I got a guy with COVID. He doesn't have any family members. Where do I go get food at? So I, in turn, went to one of our social service agencies and then took him, got food, and then took him the food. You know, so even though they're in the school and the hospital, they're still taking from our resources, which Boys and Girls Club is where I went and got that food and I delivered it to them. So
For free.
for free. Well, yeah, yeah, and yeah, for free. But I wasn't thinking about for free. I was just thinking about, but Boys and Girls Club, they're one of our
Right.
agencies that get some of this money, and so I don't want to say it's like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we're all eating out of the same basket in a way. Because I rely on my on my social workers because I get so many constituents that say, "Hey, I need medicine," so I rely on them to see how they're getting their medicine. So it's a need. There's a need. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Okay, so are we gonna leave A and go to B? Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to B, the scoring sheet. I'm looking for my scoring sheet. I don't see it. But go ahead, Brett.
Yes, the scoring sheet is in the RFP, pages 8 and 9, in the proposed 2025 RFP.
Thank you. Then maybe that's why I can't find it. Okay, 8 and 9. Thank you.
Of course. And don't believe we had any pieces that we suggested as changes here.
Now, there's a couple that are highlighted. Do we know why those are highlighted?
Yeah, that I've got my team on. I'm noticing that too.
Can we hear from the team, please?
Yeah, Audrey or Juliet?
Carrie, do you know?
Give me just a moment to pull that up.
I wonder if it was wording.
I think it was.
And that's okay. I
For
just
clear
wanted to make sure I'm not missing
identifying the-
something.
Right.
Yeah, I've got mine highlighted here, but I don't see where it changed. It's the same as the 2024 language.
Okay.
So is that a flag that we needed to talk about it?
No, I don't think that was a flag. I think that was some proofing that I was doing.
Oh,
So I think
Okay.
we're good.
Well,
Sorry about
also,
that.
it was to hold the discussion of the right time of putting in the outcomes. There was some timing with one of our agencies had questions, and they only gave their quarter ones rather than their full annual. So there was discussion about some of that highlighting did we need to clarify?
Okay. And who was just talking, please?
Oh, this is Joyce, sorry. Joyce.
you.
with Bradbury. Mhm.
Joyce of the United Way. Okay, thank you, Joyce. I just seen that and I wanted to make sure that whatever the highlight was for, we acknowledged it. Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
don't think
but-
we need to make any changes to the scoring sheet. I think when we do the training, though, the grant workshop with the agencies in April, and we talk about outputs and outcomes, we want to make sure that they understand that those are annual, that we want a full year. And I think we'll be able to take care of that in the training and workshop.
okay.
Okay. There's nothing to add or take away or any of that?
No changes to the score sheet.
I did catch that the application form itself, which the score sheet's on the back of, needs to be updated with the total dollars available.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair, I had another comment on the application itself. If it, I think it belongs here.
Okay, go ahead.
In section 2 on page 2 of the application form, that there's some time spent in the middle of the page explaining the difference between emergency aid and preventive counseling. And It's interesting, from our conversation earlier, I think this ties back to when we used to separate emergency aid and preventive counseling and have a set total for each separate category, and we got rid of that some years ago. So I'm not sure that this really ties to anything anybody needs to know anymore, unless it's just something we want to talk about.
No, I think that's fair. I think it's a vestige of the old application.
Yeah.
And so, Joyce, are you seeing where that is in the application?
Repeat that, Karen.
Yes, I'm aware of where that's at, yes.
Okay. So,
And within EC Impact, it's kind of one of the choices of a taxonomy. But we really don't use that very often in anything that we pull, so.
okay.
We're not
So-
using it now.
Yeah, so I think the suggestion would be just to eliminate that language from the application.
Yeah, it's
In terms
just
of the
a,
instruction.
yep.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I'm glad you caught
Okay,
that.
can you repeat that, Karen, just to make sure that Liz
the-
gets it correct?
In the middle of page 2 on the application, as it was in the past,
Uh-huh.
there is a short sentence that says emergency services and preventive/counseling are defined as follows, and it proceeds to define those two with bullets. So it would be just deleting that language, which
Okay.
is more of an instruction, I suppose, to United Way. We don't vote on this anymore, although we have made it a practice to have it in front of the committee just so that we can look at it with fresh eyes, I suppose, and catch things that might be confusing or no longer tie to our protocols.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No.
Brett, I have a question. I've been on this committee for a year, and I remember. Well, let me just say this. I'm thinking this is the right committee, huh? Is there anywhere in the application that says it is your responsibility to make sure that we have the correct, your correct contact information? And it's not this committee. I had a lady that called me on another application process, and the lady they said to contact, well, they fired her, and so she wasn't there. So 2 days before they were asking for an update on something, she received that, and she thought it was so wrong that she only got 2 days notice. But I said, but you didn't. This is the person that that you said to reach out to, and that's what they did. And so I don't know if there's like a anywhere in the application process where we really highlight that.
Yeah, so two things. One, when the grant workshop, when we introduce the RFP, we encourage every agency to go in and update their contact information in EC Impact. Secondly, when they sign the contracts, there is an item in the contract that talks about updated contact information, and then it's incumbent on the agency to make those changes. And if there is a major change in personnel, that they're required to do so.
Okay, but so that's on their end. Let's talk about your end. What if they're sending you something and you've taken another job? Are we going back and we're making sure that we contact these agencies and saying, or is there two people from your office that they're supposed to be contacting to make sure that it gets that the information gets to them? How are we handling that?
Yeah, so there are multiple contacts listed within EC Impact based on title and based on relationship to the organization. And so we are in communication with programs throughout the grant year. If we get a return as well, so that's another issue. When we get a returned email through EC Impact, that flags for us that individual is no longer at the agency, and then we can contact an individual there and ensure that they go in on their end and make the update and put the correct new person in that position. But there are usually multiple contacts within EC Impact, and they are able to determine who gets those emails and how frequently, so that they're not bombarding everyone in the agency with those emails. But our team works closely with them to ensure that they have updated contact information.
Okay, okay. It looked like it, and I figured that, but I just wanted to make sure that was on the record and discussed. I don't see anything else. I think this is awesome. Karen, do you have any more?
On the application itself, we still have the calendar to do.
Yeah, but I'm saying, do you, on the application, yes?
No, I do
you
not.
see
Thank you.
anything? Okay, okay. Let's, Brett, do you have anything else to add before we move forward?
No, nothing here.
I guess I should be asking city staff if they see anything before we move forward.
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Don't hesitate to chime in if you need to. Okay, let's go to the 2024 calendar. Okay. Brett, do you have anything?
No, so these are proposed changes just based on the change in calendar year. So just ensuring that we still have the information necessary to the committee and to the governing body and to staff on time. And so these have all been updated, just based on slight changes in the calendar. For example, if something falls on a Sunday now, we would move it to a Monday or something like that. So that's basically all the changes that are here. Nothing substantial.
Okay. Councilwoman Hiller?
I think it's fine. I would point out that based on our conversation, your conversation earlier, that we might need to have another meeting. It probably needs to be pretty soon so that we have enough time to hit the calendar deadline of getting this to and through the council before the end of December. I think we do have a meeting on the 20th, but with the agenda set up that we have it, we need to really have our decision finished so it can be submitted to council by the 6th of December or 5th
Okay.
of December to go into that preliminary calendar. So just a note to ourselves.
Okay. I do, I remember when Liz set this up, she said we might have to have 2 meetings, but I think she's in her mind, she's just trying to cover all bases. So I did receive an email from her stating that, I'm going to go back, grandfathering was approved by SSG committee November 8th of 2017. She did say that. And then I said, why? And then she put, I emailed you minutes from 2 meetings. Karen summed it up. The process moved to setting a minimum and maximum amount, but Michelle Delisa felt that the 25K max would not allow medical, society, and positive connections to serve the community as they had been, and would create public health and safety issues, HIV/AIDS services with PC and the free services to the community who are in the poorest population. So that's why that was set up, if according to what she looked up. So that's almost been, what is it? How many years is that?
6.
6? Okay. With that being said, do you have any comments on that, Councilwoman?
Well, I just couldn't remember names and dates, but that pretty much, we had someone that advocated at the time, and it's just kind of carried forward.
Yeah. I guess personally, I guess I would like to see this maybe one more year and then have this discussion again next year. So so that they would just to see where we're at, and I would like to have some discussion with Positive Connections as well as a medical society to see. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Councilwoman, the agency is
Yes.
here and it is willing to provide more feedback if you would like.
Absolutely. Please have them come to the podium or come forward and also state their name and who they're with, please. Actually, they can sit in one of those chairs if they feel more comfortable. I don't care.
Megan Skaggs, I'm Executive Director of the Shawnee County Medical Society Health Access Program. What this funding does is it funds our prescription program. So it will fund antibiotics, it will fund medication for diabetes, for hypertension, for all of those types of necessities for those uninsured, low-income residents of Shawnee County. To qualify for the program, they have to be under 150% of the federal poverty guidelines. They must be uninsured and not eligible for Medicaid, Medicare services. So that is what this pool of money goes to. Councilwoman is correct that we do have our medical services donated from our physicians. Our program is funded operationally by fundraisers, by other grants. Many of our physicians do donate themselves to our program as well. And so specifically the money that we get from the city is solely dedicated to prescription funding. And so without that higher threshold, it would be very difficult for us to continue those services. And historically, before that dollar amount of $25,000, we had been receiving previously up to $100,000 from the city. And so we were essentially cut to $50,000, and that's why they wanted to keep that grandfathering in. That is what I wasn't there when this happened, but that's what's been told to me from our board and our previous director.
Do you also serve the mentally?
Actually.
Yes, that's actually the part of the reason that I'm here. I am Sandra Knox with Vallejo, but I do oversee the LINK program that we have at Vallejo that is a partnership with Health Access. And Health Access does help with the underinsured that are suffering from mental illness. It's a relatively new partnership. 4 years, something like that. But Health Access does cover that. In turn, prior to the job that I'm at now, I was actually directly involved with that and can speak for how much money some of these drugs cost and how many times we were given an exception, to spend additional funds out of this pool for someone who was awaiting Medicaid, etc. I can remember calling Megan for a $700 prescription and, spending an hour on the phone to get this approved. And these are important psychotropic meds that people need.
Absolutely.
Until a LINK worker could, complete the paperwork to apply for prescription assistance to get it directly, from them. I'm just speaking to how important the fund has been for us in the mental health field. Not to mention, of course, that does mean that, Vallejo is providing mental health services, med services, etc., along with the others, donated, not reimbursed. I'm only speaking directly to how important the medication fund is. It takes it down to where a person has a copay of $5, and there's times that has to be waived also. Sometimes, to some of us, $5 doesn't seem like much, but To them, it's like $500. And they will not get the antibiotic. They will not get the other med that is needed. And just through the Link partnership, I mean, I can say that there's numerous people that when I was still carrying a caseload doing that were getting 6, 7, 8 medications for, you know, a total of $70, $80 a month. That was their portion. I can't imagine without having Health Access pay the other portion, how they would have ever filled those meds. So that's my 2 cents. So
Well, I appreciate your 2 cents because you know what? Everybody's like, well, they can get a Medicaid card or a medical card or whatever, but the processing, it could take up to 60 days. And you still have somebody that does not have their medicine. So I
Well,
appreciate that.
yeah, well, and the other, you know, the other part of that I think 60 days is being gracious because that process,
Yep.
never have
I
I
was trying
ever
to be
seen
nice.
anybody get Medicaid in 60 days.
I was trying to be nice because I
I
have
know.
buddies over there. So
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. But, you know, also it addresses the immediate need.
yeah.
Just because if they don't get the antibiotic, because the purpose of Link is to keep them out of the emergency room. So
Right.
if they don't get the antibiotic because it is too expensive, they can go to the mobile unit, get prescribed the med, but not fill the med because they still don't have the money to fill it.
Right.
And then they end up in the emergency room, in turn costing taxpayers a whole lot more money. So again, just more of my 2 cents. So
Well, no, and like I said, you pick and choose your battles, and my buddies, I'm trying to help them out here. But yeah, but 60 days, even 60 days is a long time when you need your medicine. I don't care, you know. So please state your name again and where you work at now for the record.
well, I am Sandra Knox. I work for Vallejo Behavioral Health Care.
Okay, that's what I thought you said, but I wanted to make sure. And there is a sign-up sheet when you come in. If you guys have not signed up, please do so. Please
Yeah.
do so. That helps my assistant there. Okay. Does anybody in the room have any questions for these ladies?
Well, thanks for
If
hearing us out.
none, I appreciate your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we all know what positive connections do. And I'm sorry,
Positive Connections is here as well.
would they be willing to come to the podium?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Kathleen Link. I am the Executive Director of Positive Connections. Wasn't really prepared to speak, and as you all know, I'm not very good at this. But the social service grant, the funds for that grant, mostly 90-something% of it covers salary for our case managers. Currently, we have 3 case managers and 236 HIV positive clients on our caseload. That's giving our case managers 80 clients apiece. Industry standard is about 40. So if our funds, I'm already losing 1 case manager due to competitive wages, of course. She does have a social worker degree and is going on somewhere where she can make more money. Without our city funds, definitely we would most likely have to have layoffs. And that would put the HIV community in Shawnee County and Topeka at risk. Our case managers do everything from keep them enrolled in medical services to where they can get all of their medications, doctor's visits, everything for free through the state. HIV medications cost about $2,000 to $3,000 just in 1 month. A lot of our clients are not only on HIV medications, they're also on high blood pressure medications, mental health medications. So our case managers keep them enrolled in these services so that they can get these vital medications. The case managers also help with housing. A lot of our clients are enrolled in Shelter Plus Care and other housing services such as Kansas Care Through Housing. I could go on and on about everything that the case managers do to keep the HIV infection from spreading. The main thing is keeping our clients undetectable, which is making sure they're going to their doctor visits, making sure they're taking their medications, because undetectable does mean untransmittable, and our goal is no new infections. I can tell you so far in 2023, I have diagnosed 10 new infections in our little office. And that's the highest it's ever been since I've been there for 12 years. When I first started 12 years ago, I think our case management, our client list was less than 150. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% positive. I would have to look. But numbers keep climbing. And without these funds, I'm fear that I would lose more staff. And we fund everything. We do other grants. I work with like 9 other grants. We also do fundraisers, but as everybody knows, fundraising has not bounced back since COVID. It's been very difficult to raise money, very difficult this year with the cost of inflation as well. But if you have any questions, I may not be prepared to answer those today, but I definitely will get you numbers, anything that you absolutely need to keep us at the 35,000.
Okay. I want to thank you, Kathleen, for what you do over there. I have been in and toured the building, and I go to my NIA meetings over there, and she didn't say this, but they have a pantry stocked full of stuff. I felt like I just wanted to get a basket and go through the store so I could come on home. And that's how much food that she has that she gives away. So I appreciate you and your testimony today.
Yes, ma'am.
Without, you can sit down. You can be seated.
Thank you.
Unless anybody else has any questions for her. Okay, I see none. Am I correct? Okay. Karen, I appreciate that this dialogue, but I think I'm okay right now with keeping that grandfather cap in. I don't know how you feel, but with the challenges that we're going with the homeless, the mentally ill, and I think for right now I'm okay.
I'm okay with it. I just feel compelled to bring it up because every single one of our agencies could give us a similar pitch.
You're right. You're right.
And
They all do good.
They're all valuable, and some people have caseloads of 1,000. It depends on what kinds of services are being delivered. What the roles are, and we know that. I mean, it's a network. It's not just any one agency, and so that's why I feel compelled to bring it up because I've been in one, live in that network, and I know how hard it is to do the work and how valuable it is, and just how to balance. The city. People look at this. You guys know this, but they look at the city for everything, right? And it's handy. And if we get in that position, I'm sorry, I thought it was on. The issue is that I feel like I always have to step back and say, okay, what's our role in this? and make sure we're not getting in the way, and particularly in the case of nonprofits. And that's my world, so it's not negative at all, but it's, some things people are more likely to donate to than other things too. And so, just raising the issues, so doing things the way we've always done them, isn't always automatic. And I think the pitches were fine, and I'm fine with leaving it the same. Just feel like I have to bring it up.
Okay. And no, I appreciate that dialogue and I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate the agencies and all of their hard work. And unfortunately, there's going to be a time, and I just want to say that the agencies need to remember that there might be a time that this gets taken away. I mean, because right now we're going through some hard times, and there's a lot of money spent on the homeless and the mentally ill right now, and with housing and in all areas. So it's everybody's having a tough time. But I feel okay with just leaving that where it's at.
If I could, Chair, if we do that, there still could be the consideration that I guess we've tabled to next time about whether to raise the cap for, like, for instance, from 25 to 27, so that those regulars, the others, could have a little bit of extra help with the services that they're providing already. And that wouldn't,
Right, how do you?
that wouldn't cut
But
into theirs.
Okay, no, you're right, because that's they're grandfathered in. That's totally separate. Brett, how do you feel about raising the cap to 27?
So if my math is correct, the additional 57,000 that came in was about 15%. So a 15% increase to the maximum grant amount would take it to 28,750. Obviously, you'd want to just do round numbers, but 27 or 28,000, I think would be reasonable. Wouldn't be disproportionate to the amount that we have. And to Councilwoman Hiller's point, with increases in terms of inflation and in terms of the competition that we have for labor, and the fact that there hasn't been an increase for some time, I think that would certainly be reasonable.
Well, I'll make that motion then, Karen, to raise the cap to 25. Let's just do it now.
Which, did you want to go to 27 or 28?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did say 25. I'm sorry. I've got.
That's
oh,
okay.
Jesus.
We're
Thank
keeping
you.
up with you.
I say 27. Let's start at 27.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go, Brett. 27.
That still leaves a little room
written in.
to maneuver
It is.
for applications or
Yeah, that's
possibly
what
a
I
new
was thinking.
program.
If we go to 28, I don't want to have to come down. I want to be able to stay where we're at. So, and I hope your math is correct, Brett. I hope you're good on that, because
Fingers crossed.
as you can see, my math isn't correct. I'm staying the same. So
Well, 18 times 2 is 36,
Yeah,
and we've got 57.
yeah,
So I think we're okay.
yeah. I think we're pretty close.
okay, all right. So let's see, what else do we have? Let's see. Other items? Is there anything else?
I guess the question would be then if we have agreed on preserving the grandfathering, we have voted on raising the 27, we voted on how to phrase the minimum and maximum.
Right?
Do
I
we
don't
need-
think we need to touch the grandfathering because it's already what it is.
Correct. What I'm doing is jumping to the end as to whether we just made the decisions that we don't need another meeting or whether we still need one.
I don't think we need one. Brett, do you think we need one?
Carrie, did we leave something out on the
The-
table?
The contract specific.
The
Oh, the
contract one, that's right.
contracts.
That was
Yeah.
the only other piece.
Have we gotten?
I do have it,
Oop.
but I don't know, is that something you want to discuss right now, or does it make more sense to send it out to the committee as a whole? So you can review visually?
We want to talk about it right now because we might be getting done.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'll be able to share my screen or anything, but we can certainly pull it up for you to review.
Give us
Is she
just a
going to share
moment.
the screen? I missed that conversation.
We are pulling up the contract information.
Yes, if we can get it done today, let's do that. And that way we don't have to worry about another meeting and we can get it on the agenda.
Give us just a moment, Chair.
Here it is. Do you want me to try to join the Zoom so you can share my screen?
Yes, if you're able to.
I'm good on the fly. There goes nothing.
Now that's what you call being on the big screen right there, Taylor. You got me on the big screen.
There we go.
Okay, who's gonna talk about this?
Councilwoman, I will. This is Carrie Higgins with City of Topeka Housing Services. So as you can see on your screen, let me read through here. The contract total is $21,000 and is paid from Housing Services Division with federal funding. Sorry, give me just a moment. I'm reading through it. It looks like, according to the contract, it is the $21,000 out of Housing Services federal funding, and then an additional $20,856 out of general funding. It looks like the total then would be $41,856. Brett, does that sound correct? I was thinking.
It's actually more now. So we did it for 1 year, then we came back and had conversation, and then it was a negotiated, graduated amount. I've actually never seen this contract, so.
Okay.
So I know that the conditions of the contract are the same, but the amounts paid out are more than they were initially.
So we might not have that updated contract here. We can get that for you, though.
Brett, you thought it was, I'm thinking it was 47. Is that what you're thinking?
I know it's higher than 41. And I don't, unfortunately, on my end, I don't have access to that contract. I've actually never seen it, so.
Councilwoman, we will pull the most recent contract from procurement and send it to you, to the committee.
And
Okay.
if somehow commitments were made outside that contract, as Brett was referring, that council wasn't really involved in those things, and so.
We
some of
need to
them-
know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is, we can do it by Zoom. We're just gonna have to set up a Zoom, quick Zoom meeting, to go over this contract.
If I may, Councilwoman, this is Taylor with Communications. Liz had let us know that she tentatively put a meeting date on the calendar
Yeah.
for December 4th. So that's already on there if you guys want to stick with that date.
Well,
Yeah,
but
what's-
I'd already said I couldn't do it.
Okay.
So
Oh,
if
you
we
did?
need to
Okay.
maybe meet the 30th or something like that, you know, if that would allow us to get Brett's reaction on anything we did and do the contract, that makes some sense. If it's short.
I'll have Liz work on that when she gets back off of vacation, Karen. Well, and if you
Fine.
said no, she might have already started working on it. I don't know, but I don't want to approve something just off of what nobody knows. I mean, you know,
Agreed. Agreed.
so we're just gonna have to do a short meeting, and it will be figured out. Okay, is that okay, Brett?
Sure, that sounds great to us.
I apologize, but we just need to get this rolling so that we make sure we got you for this last year.
For sure.
Okay. Is there anything else to come before the committee? Anything else? Okay, I'll start going down the line. Karen,
No, thank you. Good.
Mr. Martin,
No, thank you.
staff.
No, thank you.
I want to thank everybody for their time and their efforts today, and all of us working together. That's what helps us move this process along, and when we can have good dialogue, and so I just want to thank everybody, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you enjoy your family and friends, and think about those that are less fortunate than you. Without anything else, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Goodbye, everybody, and thank you.
Take care.
All right,